For 1.2.5 CAD Fundamentals, we're going to get a little bit more into some of the tools we have available to us. Namely, we're going to look at the Revolve tool and then some modified tools with the Fillet and the Chamfer. So if we look, just like always, if you hover over the tool, it tells you what that does. So the Fillet kind of rounds over an edge. The Chamfer makes like a cutout of that edge. And if we look at Revolve, you get a profile that you spin around a central axis. So you can do like the picture shows here, where you can leave a center part open that would become a hole for something, or you can do it in some with that being full. So we're going to take some look at some of those. So to begin with, you should save your file and name it 1.2.5 CAD Fundamentals. So this will be your first file they're going to work on today. We're going to be making this object. So if I go to my right view, you will not have this picture, but it's in your notes if you need to reference it. But we're going to go through how we're going to deal with this today. So we have a drawing file of an object. All of the dimensions are in millimeters. So we have every number here is in millimeters. So we're going to talk about how we can modify our inputs as well. So we don't have to change the dimension settings. We could go to our document settings and change over to millimeters, but I'm going to show you how you can do that for each step of the way. So we're going to make this. The first thing we need to do, going back to our home view, our isometric view, we're going to create a sketch. And we're going to put that sketch on the this plane here, so we can look. This is the, oh, not that one. We're looking at the the YZ plane. So create a sketch on that plane, on the YZ plane. If you do this drop down for the origin, you can see those planes in particular. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the main body of this. To do that, we're going to create a rectangle starting at the origin. So click once to start it and then bring it out here without clicking again. I'm going to put a height here. So my height is going to be 30, and then I'm going to type the letters mm. So 30 millimeters. I hit tab, and then I'm going to make this 20 millimeters. And then hit enter or click, and we've made that rectangle. So I'll finish that sketch. So I have this rectangle sitting here. I'm going to use the Revolve tool. It selects that profile automatically. I could deselect and select it again, but this is the profile we're going to revolve. Now I'm going to choose the axis that I want to revolve around. I want to revolve around this left side axis, and it will spin that profile around to make a whole shape. I could also just as easily pick the right axis, and it'll make the cylinder based around there. But for now, we're going to pick the axis that's above the origin. So select that axis above the origin, and we want a 360-degree revolve. If I grab this, I can choose how many degrees I want it to rotate, or I could just as easily type them in, and I would get those sections. But we want a full 360 degrees revolution to make that object, making a new body, so hit OK. So now I have the main body of the cylinder. Next, we're going to create a sketch on the top. We're going to start making this little nub thing that's on the top of this. So I'll create a sketch at the top. If we look at that drawing file, it is a square that is centered from the origin. So we're going to use a new tool. I have this on my bar, but you'll need to go to Create, Rectangle, and there's a center point rectangle. So click that. With this center point rectangle, we're going to click the origin and then just drag away. We're going to type in 10 millimeters for both of those. So we get a 10 millimeter by 10 millimeter square centered on the origin. You can see all of those lines are black, which means they are constrained, and that just means they're happy. They're not going to move around on me. So I do that, I can finish. And now I have this little nub. If I look here, I can see that that has a height of 15. So I'll extrude that square and I'll go up 15 millimeters and hit enter. So I have that part coming up. I have a radius on this little part that sticks up, a radius of 5 millimeters. So I'm going to find my fillet tool, which will give me a radius. With this fillet tool, there are two ways you can do this. You can pick a face. So if I pick this face and put 5 millimeters, every edge of that face gets filleted and we get this really weird shape. So we're going to be a bit more particular than that. So if I go here, I can hit this X to remove that selection. I'll hit a plus. I'm going to add a selection set. And I'm going to pick the lines that I want to fillet, which are these lines at the bottom. And you can right click to rotate around, or you can pick the line through the object like I've done there. So I have this set, all of these bottom edges of this rectangle that we extruded. I'm going to make a 5 millimeter fillet, and I get that profile to show up. So this is how we can use a fillet to kind of soften the edge of a profile. I hit OK, or hit enter. Now I've made that fillet. The next thing we need to add is this chamfer at the bottom. So same thing, go to my tools, hit chamfer. I'm going to pick this edge. And then the type of chamfer, I have equal distance. So right now it says it has a distance of 5, so I'll type 5 millimeters. In this case, if I look at my right view, a equal distance means it came in 5 millimeters and went up 5 millimeters. I can go to my type over here, and instead of equal distance, I could choose to distance, which just means I'll have a different distance for each side. So if we take a look at what that looks like, I can have this side going in 5 millimeters, and I can make this side go up maybe 0.7 inches or whatever I feel like, but they can be two different numbers, and that changes the angle here. Or instead of to distance, I can choose distance and angle. So that's what I'm going to choose. So I have the distance, it's going in 5 millimeters, and I'm going to have an angle of 30 degrees, which is what I have here. The angle is 30 degrees, and I've gone in 5 millimeters. If I select this flip button, it'll switch which dimension is measured by length and which dimension is measured by the angle. You can see that. So now the angle is shooting down this direction. We have that steeper side going up. So we're going to flip it. So it should look like this, 30 degrees for the angle and 5 millimeters for the edge length. You can also go up to this window in the top right, the chamfer tool, and you can put in your measurements for either of those. But once you have that 5 millimeters, 30 degrees, and looking like this, you hit OK. And now we have made that object. So you need this object. Again, you won't have this sketch in your thing you submit to me, but you'll have this object. So you'll save this. It'll be user saved in your file, your folder as 1.2.5 CAD Fundamentals. So that's the first thing I need. Next, while in your folder, go open up your file 1.2.2, which should look something like this. It'll have your assortment of blocks. And we're going to edit this file a little bit. So with our new understanding of the fillet tool, we're going to make these blocks look more appropriate because these blocks, as we've made them, have very sharp edges, which isn't true of our wooden blocks. So you need to grab these blocks and you're going to add a fillet tool to all of them. So the ways we can do that, you can go through and pick every single line for your objects, but that would be kind of lengthy and tedious. Like I mentioned, if you pick a face, we could pick all of the faces of the object, and that will fill all of the edges. So I can do that for this arch. I'll pick every face. So every face of this arch block is blue. Now that that's the case, Let's try to give a fillet. So I don't know what I want this to be exactly. So I'm just going to zoom in and grab this arrow wherever it shows up and kind of drag it into the block until it looks good to me. So I think that's fine. Your number doesn't need to be exact, but it just needs to have some kind of radius on there. So I'll have a radius. Now every edge that exists has a radius on this arch block. Another way you can do this, if I go to modify again and fillet, I could, like I said, pick every single line, or if I just drag my mouse, it'll select everything in that box. So if I close this and do that one more time, so I'm going to pick up here so I know I'll capture everything. Every object that I need to fillet is in the box. I can let go, and I'll put a fillet on every face at once. So we can quickly fillet or round over all of the edges of our blocks. Now with our revolve tool, we're going to practice something a little bit different. So all of you, when you made your cylinder, you made that by making a circle and extruding it up. We're going to create a sketch and make a cylinder using the revolve tool now. So that means whatever direction your cylinder is in, you should put a sketch on the face where you see the height of that cylinder. I'm going to create a rectangle. Just start somewhere near the bottom. If it's close to 0, that's fine for now. We're going to go up, so whatever the height of your cylinder was. So in this case, we'll have 2.3, seems fine, whatever your measurement is. So I have the height, but if you notice, I didn't put the width. So if we look at our cylinder, it had, I believe, a diameter of 1.5 inches, or maybe 1.25. Not important. Right now, we're going to add a dimension. So we're going to hit the letter D, and we'll do the dimension tool. You can see the little icon that shows up next to the mouse. That is my dimension tool. Or if I hit escape, I can go up here to the sketch dimension button, and I'm going to add a dimension here for the height of this object, or for this top line, which is the width of this object. I want it to be, we'll say, 0.5 inches, and hit enter. So now it's locked to that size. I'll finish my sketch, and I have this little rectangle. If I revolve this profile around one of the side axes, I make a cylinder. Another block that was in the set that you guys did not use, I'm going to create another sketch. You can pick any face for this one. I'll just put it down here. If we make a rectangle, we'll make it 1 inch by 0.75 and hit enter. Finish that sketch. We have this little rectangle. Revolve that rectangle around either of those axes, and instead of 360, we're going to go 180, and we get this little half round block that exists in those pieces. So we're going to make that guy as well. So you should have your 4 original blocks should have rounded over edges, and then you should have an additional cylinder and this half round block that you made with the revolve tool this time instead of the extrude tool. Whenever you go to make something in Fusion, there's more than one way to make that happen, and there are a lot of tools in this suite that we'll eventually get to. But for now, most of your process of making things will be extrusions, revolutions, and then you can modify things with fillets and chamfers to kind of get a desired effect. So we can actually, let's do a chamfer on these arch blocks. I want to chamfer just one edge of those, like just the edge that comes up on either side. So I have these edges that are still sharp corners, but I have these 2 chamfered edges now. And we can do something similar with this guy, and we'll do a equal distance chamfer. We'll make a pencil. How about that? Or a crayon. So you should have an object file that looks like this. Your 4 rounded over pieces, a half round that has the chamfered edges, and a cylinder that is now made to look like a pencil or crayon or something of that nature. Both of those files need to be saved in your folder. You don't need to submit anything for those. They just have to exist and be correct by the due date.